The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com.
We were on a break!
With Nick Eatman, David Hellman, Ambar Garcia, and Derek Eagleton.
It is Tuesday, December 4th, 2018, Season 14, Episode number 89. Welcome to another edition of The Break. We're live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. Got Nick and Dave with me. Amber's out today. She will be back tomorrow, and that's when we'll start getting you guys ready for the upcoming Cowboys versus Philadelphia Eagles matchup. How's everybody doing today?
Great, Derek.
You good, Dave?
Yeah.
Nick?
Great. Wonderful.
Awesome.
Here. Let's see here.
You in?
Yeah, I'm in.
All right,
There
good.
we go.
We could hear you. I don't think you could.
I know. I got it. I'm all good to go.
Good. We got a lot to talk about today. We're gonna take a big picture look around the NFL today, and it's no better day to take a big picture look than today because
Thank God we did that show Friday. Because you would have come in here and been, all right, first quarter against the Saints.
yes,
Good. Yeah.
we would have had to jump into the game, but we did that on Friday. That's old news. That's a team we already beat, so it's not.
That game
it doesn't matter.
feels like
It's just the Saints.
5 years ago.
It does. It absolutely does. But, I mean, it's just really if you go back to Thursday and then you factor in everything that happened Sunday, and then even last night, it seems like everything is just going the Cowboys' way. All the teams that you would want to lose, for the most part, lost on Sunday and on Monday. And it's put the Cowboys in a really, really unique position just from the standpoint of where they sit right now. Cowboys are leading the division at 7-5. You've got Philadelphia. You got Philadelphia second at 6-6. Washington tied with them at 6-6, and New York at 4-8. The interesting thing about all this is there's now a clear scenario as to how the Cowboys could clinch the division. Essentially, if they can win the next two games, which will be at home against Philly, then on the road against Indianapolis, and then if Washington loses one of the next two games against either the Giants or at the Jacksonville Jaguars, Cowboys will clinch the NFC East. Amazing that we are here.
WTF. WTF happened. How did we get here? Which
They were 3-5.
They were 3-5. And I mean, yeah, it's not mathematic, but I mean, it's not a lock. But I mean, if you beat the Eagles, you take basically a 2-game lead with a tiebreaker
With 3 to go,
with
yeah.
3 games to play.
Yeah.
So I'm like, win this game, and it's almost
It's over.
impossible for you to not make the playoffs.
It's over because of what happened last night. And I mean, a lot of people were like tweeting in the middle of the game, like, wait, should we pull for the
I did
Redskins
that.
now? Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you kind of think about it because you're like, they're not going to win anything with Sanchez.
Well, yeah, you couldn't have predicted that Colt McCoy was going to also
Right.
get
I don't
hurt.
think they were going to win with him.
But I think halfway through the game, I started, and actually really before the game, I was kind of on the fence. I was like, yeah, I know Philly's probably the best way to root here, but I don't think Washington's going anywhere. So the one thing I do fear a little bit, and I think Cowboys fans should, is that Philly gets on a roll.
Yeah.
And you start looking at what some of the things that have changed for Philadelphia
Like
here,
a 10-game
starting
winning streak?
The last,
I mean, you can knock the
it can
roll.
happen, yeah,
You
it
can
can.
stop it.
But you look at some of
I
the
know
stuff
what
that's happened. Golden Tate last night gets going for them in a big way. He has 7 catches for 85 yards and a touchdown. They get back Darren Sproles, who has a touchdown for them last night, an important piece. They've now found this undrafted guy, Josh Adams, who is now giving them a regular presence as a runner. Last night he had, 20 carries for 85 yards,
a big
4.3 average. Yeah. Ertz is still being Ertz. Wentz is still being Wentz. The big problem for them still is their secondary has just been shred to shatter it's just tattered at this point.
Ribbons.
And so do you think though that's a legitimate concern that Philly now can get on a roll and you might be facing a very different team in Philadelphia than what you faced the first time around?
Of course it's a concern, but here's the thing. That's the NFL. Like, nobody's going to do this job for you. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to have to win games to make the playoffs. That's how this works. And the Eagles winning that game put you in a position to take care of business by beating them. I didn't want Washington to win that game because the Cowboys can't do anything about them from here on out. They don't play, and all of their opponents the rest of the way are pretty easy as far as record goes. Obviously, I know it's the NFL. The Eagles,
Tougher than I thought it was.
It is a little tougher,
When I looked at
especially
it,
after what you saw last week.
at Jacksonville, at Tennessee, like they're not winning those games.
Giants,
Maybe
Jags, Titans, and Eagles, right?
Yeah.
That's no teams with winning records. 0. So again, every game's tough in the NFL.
Yeah.
I understand, but then go compare that to what the Eagles have to do. They go
Eagles
to,
go at-
to Dallas,
Yep.
I believe to LA,
To LA.
Houston,
Yep.
and then they finish
And
it
then
off
at
with Washington.
Yep.
So that's 3 teams that are likely, 2 teams that are definitely going to the playoffs, one that looks like it is in Dallas, and then a division game to finish it out. That's rough.
Yep.
You know, like you always want, for the most part, what you always want when you're talking about division games is you want them to split. You want the home team to win, and that's what happened last night. And I think if it comes down to it, if it matters at that last game, you'll probably want Washington to beat Philadelphia at that point. But I don't know if it will matter. You know, I have a feeling that the Cowboys will be playing Tampa Bay 2 days before Christmas with a chance to lock it up right then. That's kind of what.
So you think they're going to lose one of the next 2 if they're going to need till
Well-
Tampa Bay to lock it up?
I mean, or somebody wins a game.
Washington wins the next 2.
They have to
Franchise.
win. They have to.
They
win.
got to win. If they lose one of the next 2 and the Cowboys beat Philadelphia and Indy, then Cowboys clinch.
Yeah, I
anything can happen, but it's reasonable to think the Cowboys split these next 2 games. Division game against Philly, who you could be a completely different team, and then a Colts team that's fighting for its playoff life on the road. So
This has happened at least 3 times that I can think of now in December, where the Eagles are not the favorite, and they come in. And Dallas has a chance to really do something here. I think Thanksgiving in 2014 was one. They were kind of hot, and Sanchez came in there and did well. I want to say in the 2007 season they won 10 in a row and lost to the Eagles and Westbrook, and maybe even 2006 or so when they had a chance on Christmas Day and Jeff Garcia came in here and beat. I mean, like, it just seems like there's been times where they have had a chance to knock out the Eagles and win something big, and they couldn't do it. So
the whole division turns on this game because everything looks so cut and dry right now. But the Eagles win that game.
they're in first place.
They're in first place. Although, like I said, though, I like this situation for the Cowboys because the Eagles have a murderer's row in front of them. But again, going back to my point, this is all you can ask for. Like, the game is in front of you, the opportunity's there. Like, you're not going to build up this unassailable lead by not. You have to win games and play your part in it too. So this sets you up. It's all right there for you, which is why I think it worked out so well that the Eagles won that game.
And the best part about it, like you said, you're exactly right there. And the best part is down the stretch here, Cowboys have the lead by themselves. That's what was good about Philly winning. They have the lead by themselves. They've got the best team in the division right now. I mean, they're playing better than the Eagles. They're the most complete team, and they have the most favorable schedule to win. Like you
What
just
else
said.
do you want?
Like you just said, it's all lined up there for you to go win.
One more
is
thing.
why
I can hear somebody saying it at home is like, well, what if the Eagles get on a roll? The Cowboys are on a roll. So
True.
what? Whatever. Let's go.
Yeah.
What else do you want but division rivals playing for the lead in December? That's why we do this, right?
Yep. And
Let's
if you want your mind to be blown even more, take that 3-5 team and consider the fact that they are in a great position to even be the 3rd seed in the NFC, not just the 4th seed. Right now, the Chicago Bears are the 3rd seed. They're at 8-4, but listen to what they've got left on the schedule. They're at home against the Rams this weekend. They're at home against Green Bay the following weekend. They're at San Francisco and finish the season at Minnesota. 2 of those 4 teams are playoff-bound teams, or at least fighting for the playoffs. And obviously, Green Bay is still Green Bay when it has Aaron Rodgers. So any given weekend,
I keep
they
saying
can
that.
be Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers that we know.
Every Friday, I'm like, "Ugh, Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, and every Sunday they embarrass
They
themselves.
just and this last weekend was the
of
worst.
course, now that they
for them.
fired their coach, watch them. They're going to finish.
He'll get on a roll.
7-1. Yeah.
But that's also good for
He
the
got what he
Cowboys at
wanted.
this point.
Yeah,
That's good for the Cowboys at this point because you just want them to put losses on teams in the division. I mean, in the conference. That all just helps the Cowboys because Green Bay won't get back in the playoff.
I love having these. It's so much fun when you get to this point in the season when you can sort of. I spend more time than anybody on that stupid ESPN playoff predictor. But the funny thing for me is people in my mentions on Twitter are like, well, You sure we want the 3 seed? I don't want to go to the Superdome. How do you even know how that's going to shake out? Like literally, the Rams, unless you think the Rams are going 15-1, that's not over either. Because if the Rams lose another game, then the Saints are back up in first.
And
So-
honestly, flip a coin. Either one of those teams is going to be a tough out at their place. I know what everybody's saying about the Saints, but the Rams, have you watched them lately? They're going to be a tough out at their place, just like Saints would be a tough out at their place.
If we can assume today that it's going to be Rams 1 and Saints 2, I would much rather go to LA.
That's just because you haven't faced the Rams this year.
It's because I've been to the Superdome for a big game, and I know what a tough place that is to play. That's really all it comes down to.
I'm not certain it wouldn't be the same thing in LA. They've turned that fan base into, well, I mean, honestly.
There'll be some silver and blue in the stands in LA.
Absolutely, but there'll be some silver and blue in New Orleans as well. But
not as much.
Yeah, but I just think that both those teams on the field, both those teams are going to be a tough
Playoff games are tricky because you don't really have a huge advantage to go buy those tickets, as a home team. I remember when the Cowboys played the Packers, the game that, the Dez non-catch or whatever, there was a lot of Cowboy fans.
Tons.
At the
Yeah, I remember they were holding up "Finish This Fight" signs.
And I remember there has been times here when the Cowboys have won a playoff, made it to the playoffs at home, and then kind of scrambling to sell out the tickets that week. It's just kind of a chaotic thing that happens. I think they've gotten better at it by putting it into the season tickets.
It cracks me up. Like, people clowned on the Cowboys 4 or 5 years ago for putting playoff tickets in their season ticket package. Like, that's just smart.
Smart.
It
Just be
keeps you from
prepared.
having to scram. It's like every
Was it
team.
the year that they won?
Actually, I think it is, ironically. Because, I mean, in 2014 was when Jerry was like, it's going to be an uphill battle. And they went 12-4, which leads me back to the overarching point, which is like, I can't believe we're talking about
It's
this right now.
every game when you think about points in the season since you've been here, like 5 or 6 years. I mean, like 2014, they lost to the 49ers, and it was a sea of red.
Yep.
Which Kent. But it reminds me of one of Kent's best lines. But that, and then you're like, there's no way this team's gonna do anything, and they go 12-4. And then like in 2015, they're 2-0, and they're looking really good, and they go 4-12, and then Romo gets hurt in 16. You're like, okay.
But
That's exactly the reason why. And we remember go back to the beginning of the season, and we were having the conversation about, they always do this at the beginning of the year. All the networks are talking about like, okay, who's the 0-2 team who's the team that will go 0-2 because their percentages of making the playoffs or so. I'm like, that's irrelevant. The only reason why that statistic holds up is because typically if you go 0-2, you're a bad team. It doesn't mean that if you go 0-2, you're not going to make the playoffs. They're two different things. And you're seeing it more and more in the NFL now. Teams that sometimes get off to these tough starts, they somehow start turning it around, and before they get to the end of the season, they're on a roll. Houston was that team this year. Like, did they go 0-3?
0-3.
0-3, and then went on a run.
Lost to the New York Giants, actually.
Right, and then went on a run. So I just think
So did the Bears.
I just think it's not about the start necessarily. It's about if you're a bad team and you continue to be a bad team, you're not going to make the playoffs. If you're a bad team that gets better, then you still have everything in front of you.
You remember when you were doing the Houston preview, and you were like laying out these things like, well, they're second in sacks, and their offense is ninth in scoring, and Hopkins is this and that, and I was like, why do they suck?
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I don't know. And well, the question,
Maybe they
the answer was
didn't.
they didn't.
Right.
I thought they did not suck.
They were just having a rough time. I mean,
Yeah.
But that's-
Watt was coming back after being out the whole previous year. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that
But
was
the
different.
Cowboys this year, I mean, 3-5. I mean, like against Tennessee, like they sucked. Like that was bad.
Yeah.
And I keep thinking about that too. Again, the time that I've been here, and I mean, we've never seen a trade like this where you do something like go get Amari Cooper. So I'm obviously you're talking about a different, not in season.
No.
Am I
In the middle of the
crazy?
year like that?
Yeah, what happened with Roy Williams?
With him here.
That was
last-
years,
sorry.
I
years
always
for
think,
me.
Really?
That was
Are you
10
serious?
It was 10 years ago.
My timing is so off. Like, I
10
don't-
years ago, they
I'm
traded
horrible
for
with timing.
Roy Williams.
That was 10 years ago?
Yes.
God, I'm so old.
I was in college.
That
Yeah.
was like, that seems recent to me.
No.
Wow.
My
kid
point
wasn't even,
Wasn't even the last Roy Williams we had.
My point
Sorry.
was that we have never seen a Cowboys team in my time transform like this. Like I said this last week. Like usually by mid-October to Halloween, you know what the Cowboys are. Like last year, Actually, they transformed last year for the worst, I guess you could say. By this point, we've known what they are. 2015, they're 2-7. Even when Romo came back, it was a fool's hope that they were going to do anything. 2016, unprecedented winning streak. 2014, by Thanksgiving, they were 8 or 9-4. They were pretty good. Even in 2013, they had a winning record, but that defense, like nobody was under any impression they were winning anything with that defense. So to sit here on December 4th. And literally 6 weeks ago, I would have bet my life we'd be talking about draft picks right now on October 15th.
Think about what you just said, though. The 2 seasons that you pointed out that were anomalies last year and this year for 2 different reasons, one going the wrong way, one going the right way. In both those instances, there were 2 big things that happened to cause the change. Last year, they had gotten on a bit of a run, and then they lost Ezekiel Elliott, and that changed everything, right? And they lost all those other guys, by the way, as well. But that changed everything last year. This year, I think personally, as much as you talk about Amari Cooper, I think he added something to this team. But I also think the changes they made on the offensive line made just a huge difference. And so I think those 2 things combined were the reason why we saw the ascension of this team to where they are now from where they were at the beginning of the season.
And I think Sean Lee's injury, as weird as it sounds, I think that was actually a blessing for the Cowboys because Sean, huh?
Not for Sean.
Not for Sean, but I'm just saying Leighton Vander Esch is one of the best linebackers in football right now. He's playing at a high level. If he's going to win Rookie of the Year, it's going to be close because Derwin James is playing out of his mind.
Oh, my gosh.
And the guy in Indianapolis, Darius Leonard, is playing really well. He's got great stats. I don't think he's going to be able to win it. But I'm just saying Leighton Vander Esch is playing at a Pro Bowl level, not just Rookie of the Year. And I don't know if that's going to happen with Sean Lee still in there. And now if Sean can come back, and I know you wrote a story about that.
That's a great segue into.
We are going to, as you started talking about it, I was like, thank you, Nick, for the segue. We're going to take our first break.
Okay.
When we come back, we're going to talk about what Jerry has to say
Right.
about Sean Lee and where he fits into this linebacking core whenever he comes back. We'll do that when we come right back. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
And you love... if you have a thing, then cutting the cord is scary. But then I found out I could switch to DirecTV Now and still get the live sports I love. No satellite needed, no bulky hardware, no annual contract, just...
Get the live sports you love. Try DirecTV Now for $10 a month for 3 months. Visit DirecTVNow.com. DirecTV Now. More for your thing. That's our thing. Use code REALDEAL. Limited time. Price for a little package. After 3 months, renews monthly at full price. Currently minimum $40 unless canceled. Prices may change. New subscribers only. Cancel anytime. Content varies by package and may be limited. Restrictions apply.
Star Sports Tours is the only official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, offering exclusive game weekend travel packages with sideline access and photo ops with current players, alumni, and cheerleaders. That's not all, though. You'll get to talk X's and O's with Senior Director of Player Personnel Will McClay, and of course with yours truly, me, Brian Broaddus. You can trust the official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, and with us, you'll travel like a pro. Visit cowboystravel.com to book your travel package today.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now, you can get the Jack Black Playmaker, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The Playmaker includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites, plus a full-sized Intense Therapy lip balm and a Cowboys can cooler. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word Cowboys. The Jack Black Playmaker, $10, free shipping.
While a player can look good on paper, it's when he's out on the field that you really find out what he's made of. That's why the Cowboys rely on more than just stats and scouting reports when building their team. When picking a tractor, it's why you should rely on more than just specs and features. You've got to take it out and put it to the test. The Cowboys did when they named John Deere their official tractor. Experience one for yourself. Visit myjohndeeredealer.com/football.
Back to the break.
Welcome back. It's the second segment of the break, live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. We're talking big picture today, Cowboys and where they sit in the NFC and the NFC East and in the NFL. Right before the break.
I'm sorry, I'm going to ruin your segue, but I do think it's worth pointing out, just, we spent so much time talking about the division thing. Like, thanks to everything that happened over the weekend, wild card is in play for the NFC. Did I just ruin? Did
No. I had that,
okay.
and because Nick took it a different direction, I thought, I might not get
bring
to
it
that.
back.
But let's take it back. Let's jump in that real quick, and before we get over to what Jerry had to say.
Never in my life would have thought that would happen either.
We all concluded at midseason that was not an option. Wild card was not an option for the Cowboys or anybody from the NFC East for that matter. And right now, here's where they sit. You've got Seattle at 7-5 as the top wild card at this time. They are the only team that has a record the same as the Cowboys, and they obviously have a tiebreak over the Cowboys. Everybody else right now, as it sits, is below the Cowboys for even that second wild card spot. You got Minnesota at 6-5-1. You got Carolina, who is just mightily sliding. Like things are going bad for them. And by the way,
I believe.
Yeah, and by the way, Greg Olsen might be done for the season. I know he said he ruptured his plantar fascia, whatever it's called.
Painful.
Yeah, it sounds very painful.
And they've got the Saints twice. Right?
They're 6-6. And then you got obviously Philly and Washington. Listen to what the schedule looks like for Minnesota and for Carolina. Minnesota for the rest of the season, they'll play Seattle, so one of them has to take a loss at Seattle. They'll play Miami, then they'll play at Detroit, and then they finish the season against Chicago. So they got 2 games there that are going to be really tough for them. And then Carolina plays at Cleveland. They play New Orleans at home. They play Atlanta at home, and then they finish the season at New Orleans. So 2 games against New Orleans. Now, maybe that last game at New Orleans may not matter. Who knows? But all that being said, those 2 teams are going to battle each other a little bit. There's going to be some jockeying for position there. And so it does line up to where even if the Cowboys lose to Philly, they still are sitting in a really, really good spot to finish out. If they can finish out strong, to finish out and be able to be a wild card team.
Yeah, and if Philly is capable of getting on the type of role that you're describing, obviously, like they're going to have to beat some good teams to do it.
Yeah,
I won't be surprised if Dallas and Philly both make the playoffs.
Yeah, you don't want
which
that.
Is amazing.
You don't want that in that 4-5 game if Dallas is the 4, and
you have to go to Philly.
No,
or either way, just play them again.
Yeah, you don't want that. I tell you, the one that I think is the most favorable. I mean, if you can get to 3, I guess that's fine. You might have to face an NFC team. Might have to face the Vikings, but I think being a 4 seed and playing Seattle, like yesterday at the hospital visits, which by the way is one of my favorite things we get to do now. It really is. It's a humbling thing. We did it yesterday, and the guys were great. DeMarcus Lawrence is just amazing in so many ways, but. And he said some things before the Saints game, obviously, and he was right about how
he was
right on detailed on how they're gonna win that game. He was asked about a fan that one of the kids is a Seattle fan, and he asked them about the question was, did you turn him? Did you turn him as a Seattle fan? Are they still are they Cowboy fans now? He's like, it doesn't matter. I don't think we turned him. But it's okay. He'll know because we have to play them coming up in a few weeks, and it'll be. I mean, he's just straight, like he really thinks that was on the schedule. And I was like, you're already putting him in the playoffs. He's like, that's who it's going to have to be.
I think he said that about the Saints too. Like, I'm pretty sure after the game he was like, we don't need to talk because we'll see him again or something like that.
He's got it matched up 4 versus 5. They win, and then they go to play number 1 New Orleans.
His mentality is probably just like everybody who ain't us is in the way. So,
right.
I mean, I don't know.
Which I love.
Yeah, he's
absolutely love it.
He is hands down my favorite player on this team, probably. I mean, just the between production on the field, personality off the field, genuine dude, good dude.
I think he took that spot for me yesterday too. I actually walked around with him at the hospital, and just the things that he does and the stuff he thinks about. It's unbelievable. He's got so much in front of him, so much going on. He's the leader of this defense right now. And he's worried about going back to room 2412 because the little girl was crying and didn't want to make sure that she remembered the Cowboys as when she was crying. They woke her up basically, so he came back in there and she was in a better mood, and that was his focus.
That's awesome.
Some little girl, beautiful girl, bald head, just going through chemo. And said she wanted a different toy, a specific toy. And he was like, you want that? Okay. And he turned around to the PR lady that was working there, and he said, write that down, please, her name and all that, because he's going to make sure it happens.
Yeah. I'm glad we should have talked about it at the top of the show. I mean, it's so cool when they do those visits. I was with Dak, Jalen, Byron, Travis, and some other guys at the Children's Hospital in Dallas. And it's just, I mean,
that's awesome.
The way those kids and obviously the kids But in their families too. I mean, I can't even imagine living my life in a hospital room with my kid. And I mean,
and the worst part of that being you can't take away what's harming your child.
Yeah,
there's nothing you can do.
I wouldn't
you can
wish
just
that on
comfort them. That's as much as you can possibly.
I mean, parents are Cowboys fans too. It lights their. I mean, it's cool to see the impact that those guys can have.
The brand. We always talk about the brand and the star and all that. Just the impact of it. I mean, as great as DeMarcus Lawrence is, these little kids don't know DeMarcus Lawrence, and they know 2 players on the team probably.
Yeah.
And they, just by face, and they see him, and they definitely don't know Damian Wilson or cheerleaders.
Yeah.
But the uniform and the star, and they come in and just like you said, it just kind of it brightens their day. I mean, they woke up some parents, that had long nights. Parents are there, and they're trying to get their phone and to take pictures and all that. It's just, it's awesome. It's really one of the best things that the Cowboys do. I'm glad they do it. I'm glad we get to kind of tag along for it.
Yeah. Those are the really cool moments that show you that what you do. Because I know sometimes I'll have conversations with different people, and they'll be like, they're a doctor or they're a teacher, or they have careers that really matter. And what I mean is they are touching people's lives. And it takes moments like that for you to realize how much these jobs, and I'm talking about working for the Cowboys, can affect people's lives, because it does have a way of bringing joy to people. It does have a way of helping people escape from their reality. Sometimes it's a pretty hard reality. And so really it does in a way have its own place in society of being able to be a help to people in times of need.
Yep. This little kid, I don't know what he was dealing with, but I'm sure it was terrible based on the setup in his hospital room. But they woke him up too. This little guy woke up, and Dak, Byron, and Jalen are at his bedside. That's the first thing he saw when he woke up from his nap. I was like, that's probably pretty cool.
Yeah. So, no, that's pretty cool.
This
you wake
is a
up.
cool dream.
Dad,
I had this dream.
Look, Dad, don't wake me up right now. I'm in this great dream.
Yeah.
Don't wake me up. It was actually funny. I'll change the subject a little bit. Last night at the Christmas party, I was standing with a couple people, and we looked up, and Steven kind of walks around and works the room a little bit. So he's standing there and he's talking to Tank. And I'm like, I wonder what that conversation is like. He's patting him on the back. Yeah, and I'm like, I wonder what that conversation is like. I wonder what exactly is being said in that moment. It's probably nothing, but you could probably come up with some pretty funny lines that you could add to that conversation.
Hey, me.
Yeah.
He can't right now anyway. He's like, I can't. I got to wait till February. Sorry.
Although February's soon enough.
Yep.
It's soon enough. All right, so let's flip back over to that other conversation. Actually, we do need to take our other break. Let's go ahead and take our final break. When we come back, we will get to what Jerry had to say this morning, not only about Sean Lee, but he also talked a little bit about Tyron Smith, and had some comments about one particular guy that a lot of people are talking about as an offensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys at some point. We'll talk about that when we come right back. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
While a player can look good on paper, it's when he's out on the field that you really find out what he's made of. That's why the Cowboys rely on more than just stats and scouting reports when building their team. When picking a tractor, it's why you should rely on more than just specs and features. You've got to take it out and put it to the test. The Cowboys did when they named John Deere their official tractor. Experience one for yourself. Visit myjohndeeredealer.com/football.
It's time for Tailgate with the OtterBox boys.
OtterBox, the makers of those crazy protective phone cases?
The one and only. They're also wild about protecting parking lot parties from sad drinks. It's why they made elevation tumblers.
Rumor around the crockpot is they're made from stainless steel with a copper lining to keep temps hot or cold.
True, they even come in 7 different sizes, up to 64 ounce, the growler.
I like how OtterBox drinks. Thanks.
And that's been Tailgating with the OtterBox boys. Check out all the colors and sizes of their elevation tumblers at OtterBox.com.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now, you can get the Jack Black Playmaker, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The Playmaker includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites, plus a full-sized Intense Therapy lip balm and a Cowboys can cooler. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word Cowboys. The Jack Black Playmaker, $10, free shipping.
Star Sports Tours is the only official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, offering exclusive game weekend travel packages with sideline access and photo ops with current players, alumni, and cheerleaders. That's not all, though. You'll get to talk X's and O's with Senior Director of Player Personnel Will McClay, and of course with yours truly, me, Brian Broaddus. You can trust the official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, and with us, you'll travel like a pro. Visit cowboystravel.com to book your travel package today.
A man's Stetson doesn't just protect him from life's elements. It projects an unstoppable and legendary spirit, just like the men wearing silver and navy on the field every Sunday. Since 1865, Stetson hats are American-made with pride right here in Texas. They are still the official crown of all self-respecting Cowboys. And Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Find Stetson hats in the Pro Shop or at Stetson.com today.
Back to the break.
Welcome back. This is the final segment of the break, live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. Nick, tell us a little bit about Tommy John.
Tommy John has got. They pride themselves on you don't have to adjust anything.
Nope.
Now, sometimes it's good to adjust, like in midseason. The Cowboys have made some adjustments, but when it comes to your britches down there, they don't want you to have to mess with them. You haven't heard that one in
so
a while.
old.
Britches.
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 All right. The best britches in the
Draws.
business. TommyJohn.com/Cowboys. 20% off your first order. TommyJohn.com/Cowboys/draws.
That's my favorite. My old football coach in like middle school said that all
What?
like,
Draws? Your draws?
Throw your draws in the laundry or whatever. I don't know. He just had this drawl.
Yeah.
Great word. It's
Well,
just
until
a
I
great
got to college, I realized draws wasn't what they were
Draws.
called. Like I'm from the country.
Yeah.
Draws. You know?
Sorry.
Not really.
Anyway.
All right, let's go. Let's talk a little bit about Jerry Jones. Had a couple things to say this morning on his show with the local
Cowboys
radio station, The Fan. He did mention that Tyron Smith looks like he should be able to come back this week against Philadelphia. That's a big thing for the Cowboys, I think. And we'll talk about that more as the week goes on and we start talking about the matchups. But in addition to that, he also talked about Sean Lee, and his statement was that Sean Lee is going to resume his role as a starter. But he was the caveat. He said, but we're not going to rush him back. So I think there's a lot of things to take from that. What did you guys take from that statement from Jerry?
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like, I mean, you got to have something to talk about, I guess. Yeah, that's the big debate. I was tweeting about it this morning. Is like, I can't bring myself to get worked up about this. If it was quarterback, I would understand. But again, for the millionth time since they drafted Leighton Vander Esch, like you need three guys to play two spots. It doesn't matter who's listed on the program as the starter. Like I think they'll find a way to use them all. They'll rotate them. If that means that Sean Lee's on the field for the first series of the game, that's cool because Leighton Vander Esch has been too good to play like they're not just going to take him off the field. You know what I mean? I was curious about this. I went and looked it up. From the first time Lee got hurt, which is when Vander Esch really took over and started playing well as a starter, they've only all been healthy for one game.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, because Sean came back for Washington, and then he got hurt the next game, like halfway through the Tennessee game.
Yeah.
So they've only really been healthy. So the snap count in that game, there were 60 defensive snaps. Sean played 38 of them. Jalen played 58 of them, and Vander Esch played 21, which obviously that's a little low on the Vander Esch side. But that was really before he kind of hit his stride because it was the Eagles game where he really kind of announced himself, and he's been playing great ever since. So
I'm flipping that.
I
need 20 snaps for Sean Lee.
I guarantee you, and we don't know if Sean will be available for this game. He said on Friday that he hopes to come back to practice this week. We'll see tomorrow. But if they play 65 snaps against the Eagles, I can't imagine Vander Esch playing less than 40 of them.
I watched the Eagles, and we'll get into their offense, I guess, tomorrow. But it just looks like because when you watch fantasy, when you're playing fantasy football and you see like you want to know who's on the field, and they actually on Monday night show you every play, like the guys that are out there. It's a lot of three receiver sets, a lot, and so. I think they might have found something with the Jordan Lewis thing, playing some dime. I could see that happening a little bit more. And they don't have They don't have Kamara, but they've got a Sproles, and he's similar. You know, similar. I mean, he's not the same as Kamara, but I mean,
he
was at one point.
He was Kamara before. I mean, the Saints have had 4 or 5 of those guys. I mean, he wasn't as
Kamara gets the ball in the middle of the field more than I remember like a Sproles getting. I mean,
you mean runs up the middle?
Runs up the
got you,
middle.
yeah.
But,
no, for sure, yeah.
And again, they have a Heisman Trophy winner. I'm not sure why they don't give Ingram the ball and some of that, but I don't know.
He gets it plenty.
Who?
Ingram.
Yeah,
he gets it plenty.
They will find jobs for all of them, and having all 3 of them healthy for the home stretch can only be a good thing. Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
I'll ask this question. Sean Lee is a guy that before this year, I think he was probably regarded by most people as, if not the best, and one of the 2 best players on this defense. Is there something that Van Der Esch and Jalen Smith can do that you don't think Sean Lee can do?
Good question. I would imagine at this point in they're a little bit more athletic than he is. I mean, they're freaks of nature, and
they're better
22.
tacklers. In terms of the contact was made at the 25, and the ball is now going to be spotted at the 25 or the 26. And I'm not saying that Sean Lee goes on, piggyback rides and all that, but I'm saying just from a strength standpoint, those guys and Rolando McClain was better than Sean Lee at that as well. I mean, bigger, stronger. From the press box, that was a Rolando hit. That was a Leighton or Jalen hit. Sean doesn't provide those type of hits, but that's the one thing he does better. And then he's always overcome everyone else with his instincts. They have the instincts as well. So they're better linebackers than Sean Lee is right now. That's
Really?
okay. I think so.
But that's my question, because I look at Sean Lee, and I think he is a playmaking linebacker. I mean, there were many years that Sean Lee was the only guy, I shouldn't say the only guy, one of the few guys on this defense that could make a play for you when you needed it. And so I do think to some degree, this is one of those situations where his injury status is clouding people's judgment about him as a player.
Well, and his injury status, and maybe he struggled a little bit because of that too, because honestly, I was going to say, I agree with you, like, Sean Lee, his hits don't just jump off the tape at you the way that like a Jalen Smith does, but before this season, he was such a sure tackler. If he got his hands on you, you were not going to break the tackle.
And I remember him making tackles behind the line of scrimmage where the guy didn't get an extra yard. He dropped him.
It's an art form. Like he's the tackle for loss king, and it's mainly instincts that got it done for him. But this season, in the early going when he was still healthy, like you seemed like you saw that slip, like missed tackles against Carolina, missed tackles in the Seattle game before he got hurt, which chalk that up to more of an aberration because we've seen him been doing it for so long. But
I thought that Seattle game, I thought he had about 10 tackles in the first 2 drives.
He probably did. I remember.
I just remember them.
I remember it being. It feels like ancient history. But in September, I remember multiple times being like,
"Yeah,
that's not what you're used to seeing from Sean Lee." The Carolina game specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And so. I think you're right. I think it's easy to forget how good a guy is when he doesn't have a chance to be out there making plays. To that point, the play, that amazing play that Leighton made in Philly on the screen, that's a Sean Lee, that's Sean Lee's play, and which was what made it so impressive. It's like, whoa, this guy's doing Sean Lee stuff at the age of 22. That's amazing. So, it's just hard to say because we haven't seen much of him this year, which that's a theme, unfortunately.
But that's also why, when I look at it, I think this is much ado about nothing. If you got 3 really good linebackers that all can make plays for you, the more the better. Like, I don't have a problem with taking Leighton or Jalen off the field. It just means to me they're going to be fresh, and all the 3 of them will be fresher than they would have been if it were just 2 that they were rotating in.
I would like to know.
It doesn't concern me from that standpoint.
This is a question for Broadus. We should talk to him about this. But okay, that's great. You're going to obviously rotating is good, I think, but you're not just going to rotate arbitrarily. Like, you're going to have, so who do you want in there on 3rd and long? Who do you want in there when it's,
Are you sure you're not just going to rotate? Because it did seem like when they all 3 were playing, it would be like a series this guy's in, and then a series this guy's going to be out. And it seemed like it was kind of like what they used to do with running backs back in
you remember
years ago.
The drive that the Redskins scored? They drove down. It was the first drive of the game.
Yeah, screen pass to Bibbs, Capri Bibbs.
And Leighton wasn't really on the field. Sean started the game, and they went down the field and scored. And that's really the only time that I believe that Washington drove the field, and for at least for a touchdown. They might have drove down for some field goals.
Yeah, because their other touchdown was defensive.
So I mean, and I remember tweeting about it like, can we get Van Der Esch out there?
Where's 55?
Oh.
We weren't even doing that back then. That's how crazy this season is. Like this dude has a whole. You see his girlfriend on Instagram last night.
The picture?
Yeah. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Cowboys Christmas party. Everybody gets dressed up to the nines. Leighton and his girlfriend took a photo, and he draped a freaking wolf over his shoulders in the photo.
You know, Coming to America.
Yeah.
It was
like the head, the wolf
Zamunda.
head.
It was.
I'm just
it
like,
was
what
hilarious.
a badass.
And last night he was just kind of like, nah, I couldn't quite wear it all the way here. Like I thought about it, but
I mean, if you've spent time around Leighton Vander Esch, like great guy, obviously, like he's so enthusiastic and passionate on the field. Like he's not like that. You know, he's not that guy that's
much more laid back.
Laid back, but like he's unassuming. He's from freaking Riggins, Idaho. Like he's not. He could never call himself the Wolf Hunter with a straight face. I don't think. Like if we named DeMarcus Lawrence the Wolf Hunter, he'd be walking around
3 T-shirts.
He would have a T-shirt and he would say, "Call me Wolf," and he would have a wolf head. He would
and
just
a big wolf medallion.
Yeah. I can't imagine Leighton.
Although Leighton, did you see Leighton's ring?
Yeah,
he does have a wolf ring. Like it's a big gold wolf head on a ring. It's actually pretty cool.
That dude hits the crap out of people and has literally killed wolves. Like I don't want to mess with him.
And as great as Derwin James is playing right now, they're almost playing the same position because I saw several times the other night he's up there playing like a linebacker. Remember, he was drafted 2 spots ahead. It wasn't like the Cowboys had the choice.
3 actually. I think.
I thought it was 17, 19. Anyways,
that was
2.
Anyways, he was taken right ahead.
Sorry. I thought he was
and
16.
the Cowboys would have had to move up for it. And that's actually important. Was it 16 or 17? Because which draft pick do you have to let go? I think right now, even if you think James is better, there's no way James is better than him and Gallup.
I'm going to say,
right.
I think everybody, I mean, you know, he's not going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, but everybody is pretty encouraged by what Michael Gallup is doing. And I think I said after in an alternate universe, Michael Gallup has like 300 more yards and 4 touchdowns. Like if Dak just gets 5 plays go the other way, Michael Gallup.
A few inches here and there.
Washington, Saints game. I mean, the Panthers game, that crossing route. I feel bad for Michael Gallup. They've like easily left like 200 yards on the field.
But you can also think about it like this: if you didn't have Leighton Vander Esch this season, and Sean Lee did what he did, which typically happens when he gets those injuries. Where would this team be right now if Jalen's out there and you've got Damian Wilson out there with him? Nothing against Damian Wilson, but he's not Leighton Vander Esch.
And Joe Thomas has been hurt too, so it's not like
so
you have Joe Thomas.
You would have been in a real pinch at linebacker had you not had Leighton Vander Esch here.
Staggering how well that plan came.
And he's really when you think about take Sean Lee out because he's been hurt some. The 4 best players on defense. This might be kind of harder. 4 best players on defense.
We know Tank. We know Vander Esch. Byron Jones.
There you go.
Jalen.
And to me, it's kind of a toss-up between him and Crawford. I think Crawford's
I
been
think
really,
Jalen's
really good
probably
this year.
your 4th. I mean, Crawford's a close 5th.
I love Tyrone Crawford to death, but Jalen Smith is a freak,
right?
But I think Crawford has played much better for his role.
He is.
I think he's playing
top
better
5.
than
All right, top 5, and that's fine because where I'm going with this is that personality-wise, and he fits right in the middle. You've got 2 guys that like the camera. They like to be out there. They like to.
Can I guess?
Yes.
Tank and Jalen.
Yes,
that's a great point.
You've got 2 guys that they got personality, but they don't mind being quiet and laid back in both Leighton and Byron Jones. And then Crawford's kind of in the
It
middle.
depends
You never
on
know
who's
what
pulling him on that day, right?
Some
if Tank's
days-
pulling him,
yeah,
he might be all in over here.
But those guys are good to have. It's good to have a Leighton that kind of does this thing. It's good to have. I mean, I'm telling you what, Daniel Ross and Antoine Woods, they owe a lot of what they've been able to do to Tank. I mean, he just kind of makes them a part of the team, and they thrive off it. I mean,
and they've played pretty good for what they are. Those are those glue kind of guys that you just need them to play the role and play the role well, and that's what they are. I'm reminded of a guy like Brandon Noble, who's never a great player, but he was one of those glue kind of guys that ended up getting a pretty good contract to be able to leave. But he's just a good, solid player. You need those kind of players.
But the problem is he was the best player on the defense.
He was.
He wasn't. Can you
but
imagine
he was just
Woods?
an average. He was just a good player that was in a position where he was asked to be the best player on the defense.
That's the story of the NFL. Jack Crawford and Terrell McClain were those guys
a
couple years ago, and they went and got better contracts elsewhere. And if these guys keep playing that way, that'll probably happen for them too.
You know, and real quick, are we out of time?
A little bit,
so.
yeah.
But just we could talk about this another time. But you know, the Cowboys, you got to give credit to Will McClay, Jerry, Steven, Jason. You know, when they're drafting, every one of those guys is a guy that's been drafted.
Mm-hmm.
Other than maybe David Irving, who's not here,
Woods.
Jeff Heath, and Antoine Woods.
Well, you're right, but I mean, they deserve credit for bringing those guys in as undrafted.
They go and find a lot of those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, those are gems that they find that other people are kind of throwing away.
Right.
So,
but
I mean, Su'a-Filo is a good example.
But the drafting of DeMarcus Lawrence and Leighton and Jalen, I mean, those are moves that you're like, are we sure we want to do this? Yeah. And look at Cheeto and those guys, and look what it's got them.
Woods, that was the graphic, I think, in the Eagles game. Woods is the only guy that's playing a meaningful role for this team that wasn't found in
offense or defense?
Just defense.
Oh,
just defense.
Yeah,
but still.
It's huge. That's huge. All right, we appreciate you guys joining us. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll start breaking down Cowboys versus Eagles. It'll be a fun week. Till then, for Nick Eatman, Dave Hellman, I'm Derek Eagleton. This has been The Break, live on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?